While I was on my hands and knees scrubbing the grout in the bathroom because I had missed a spot on my husband's cleaning schedule, he was out buying a diamond necklace for his mistress using my inheritance money. He thought his little performance contracts were trapping me into being his obedient servant. He didn't realize I was using that exact same paper trail to legally destroy him and take everything he owned. Let's go back to the start, before the contracts and the madness. I met Jason 3 years ago. It sounds cliche, but we met at a bookstore. I dropped a stack of books, and he helped me pick them up. He was charming, dressed in a sharp suit, and he had this incredibly organized energy about him. I was a bit of a mess back then, scatterbrained, always late, just floating through life. Jason felt like an anchor. He was stable. He had a plan for everything. When we got married, I thought his obsession with order was just a quirk. I actually thought it was helpful. He handled the bills. He picked the furniture. He decided where we went for dinner. I told myself I was lucky to have a man who took charge. I didn't see it as control. I saw it as leadership. But about 2 months into the marriage, the suggestions turned into rules. It started small. He made a comment about how I loaded the dishwasher inefficiently. Then he made a diagram and taped it to the fridge. I laughed it off. I thought, okay, he's a perfectionist. Then came the first contract. I came home from work, I was a teacher at the time, and found a typed document on the kitchen table. It was titled Household Standards Agreement. It listed things like what time dinner had to be served, how the towels had to be folded, and even a curfew for when I had to be in bed. I thought it was a joke. I literally laughed in his face, but Jason didn't laugh. He looked at me with these cold, dead eyes and said, "If we want this marriage to work, we need structure. You're too chaotic. This will help you be a better wife." He made me sign it. He said if I didn't sign it, it meant I didn't care about our future. Like an idiot, I signed it to keep the peace. I thought he would relax once he saw I was trying, but he didn't relax. The contracts got worse. Every Sunday night, we had a performance review. Yes, like a corporate job. He would sit me down and grade me on my cooking, my cleaning, and even my appearance. If I gained 2 pounds, that was a strike. If I forgot to iron his shirts perfectly, another strike. He controlled the money, too. He gave me a tiny allowance in cash, even though I was working. He said, "You're bad with numbers. Let me handle the investments." I was walking on eggshells in my own house, terrified of breaking a rule I didn't even know existed. The breaking point didn't come from the cleaning or the yelling. It came from a feeling. You know when you just know. Jason had been working late a lot. He said he was at the office pushing for a promotion so we could buy a bigger house. But when he came home, he didn't look tired. He looked energized. He smelled like fresh mints and expensive cologne, not stale office coffee. One Tuesday, I breached Clause 4, no disturbing Jason during work hours. I had a flat tire and no money for a tow truck because of my allowance. So I called his office. The receptionist answered. When I asked for Jason, she sounded confused. "Jason hasn't been in the office on Tuesdays for the last 3 months," she said. "He works remotely on Tuesdays." I hung up, my hands shaking. He wasn't at home. He wasn't at the office. When he got home that night, I didn't say anything. I waited until he went for his morning run the next day. He was obsessed with fitness, so I knew I had exactly 45 minutes. I went into his home office. It was usually locked, but I had watched him hide the spare key in a hollowed-out book on the shelf. Classic Jason, thinking he was smarter than everyone else. I opened his laptop. It was password protected, obviously, but Jason was arrogant. His password was his own birthday. I got in. I wasn't looking for porn or gambling. I went straight to his emails, and there it was, a folder labeled Project Freedom. Inside weren't work documents. It was a digital life he was building with someone else. Her name was Chloe. There were flight confirmations for trips they took on those late nights. There were receipts for dinners that cost more than my monthly allowance. But then I found the real kicker. I found a document titled Exit Strategy. He wasn't just cheating, he was building a case against me. He was scanning all those housewife contracts I had signed. He was logging every strike. He had notes from a lawyer saying that if he could prove I was incompetent, incompetent and mentally unstable. He could divorce me, keep the house, and pay zero alimony. He was deliberately driving me crazy with these rules so he could document my breakdown and leave me with nothing. He had also drained our joint savings money my grandmother left me and transferred it to an offshore account in Chloe's name. I sat there, freezing cold. I felt like throwing up. I had spent 2 years trying to be the perfect wife for a man who was actively plotting my destruction. That's when the fear vanished. I wasn't sad anymore. I was furious. I decided right then and there I wasn't going to be his victim. I was going to be his nightmare. I closed the laptop exactly as he left it. I put the key back. When he walked in from his run, sweating and looking at me with that smug superiority, I smiled and handed him a glass of water. "Did you scrub the baseboards?" he asked. "Yes, honey," I lied, "just the way you like them." The next day, I took a sick day from work. I didn't go to a doctor. I went to the best divorce lawyer in the city. I had to sell some of my old jewelry just to pay for the consultation, but it was worth it. I sat down with this lawyer, let's call her Sarah, and I showed her the photos I had taken of the contracts and the exit strategy folder. Sarah looked at the household standards agreement and started laughing. "This isn't a marriage contract," she said. "This is evidence of coercive control and financial abuse." He handed us a loaded gun. We made a plan. It had to be precise. Jason was smart, so we had to be smarter. First, I needed hard evidence of the money laundering. Screenshots weren't enough. I needed bank statements. I knew Jason kept physical copies in a safe in the garage. I waited until he was in the shower, ran to the garage, and guessed the combination. It was the date of our wedding, the day he acquired me. I took photos of everything: the transfers, the hidden accounts, the credit cards in Chloe's name that were maxed out and being paid off by my salary. Second, I had to play the part. For 3 weeks, I was the perfect, submissive wife. I signed his stupid weekly reviews. I let him berate me for not folding the laundry correctly, but the whole time, I was recording him. I had a small voice recorder taped under the kitchen table. I captured hours of him yelling, threatening to throw me out on the street, and admitting he was hiding money, so I couldn't waste it. Then came the mini twist I wasn't expecting. While digging through his filing cabinet, I found the deed to our house. He always told me the house was in his name because my credit was too risky. I looked at the paper. My name was on it, but the signature, it wasn't mine. It was a forgery, a bad one. He had forged my signature to take out a massive second mortgage on the house to fund his lifestyle with Chloe. This was fraud, serious, prison time fraud. I met with Sarah again. She looked at the forged deed and smiled a terrifying, shark-like smile. "We're not just going to divorce him," she said. "We're going to obliterate him." We decided to wait for the perfect moment to strike. Jason had his company's annual family integrity dinner coming up. He was up for a massive promotion to regional director. His boss was a huge believer in traditional family values. Jason had been parading me around as his obedient, trophy wife to secure this job. It was the perfect stage. The night of the dinner arrived. I wore a dress Jason had picked out, modest, boring, beige. He inspected me before we left. "Don't speak unless spoken to," he reminded me. "And for God's sake, smile. My boss needs to see a happy home. I'll be very memorable, I promised." The dinner was at a fancy banquet hall. Round tables, white tablecloths, expensive wine. Jason was in his element, shaking hands, introducing me as his better half, while squeezing my arm a little too hard. His boss, Mr. Henderson, stood up to give a speech. He talked about how Jason was a model employee and a man of high moral character. Then, he invited Jason up to the podium to accept the promotion. Jason walked up, beaming. He started his speech. I couldn't have done this without the support of my loving wife. That was my cue. I had access to his cloud account, remember. I knew his passwords. I had synced his phone to the projector system earlier while he was networking. I pulled out my phone under the table and hit cast screen. Suddenly, the PowerPoint behind Jason changed. It wasn't his sales charts anymore. It was a photo of the household standards agreement. The room went quiet. People were squinting at the screen, reading the clauses. Clause 7. Wife must maintain weight under 130 pounds or allowance will be docked. Jason turned around, confused by the silence. He saw the screen. He froze. Before he could react, I swiped to the next image. It was a photo of him and Chloe on a beach in Cabo, dated 2 weeks ago when he was supposedly at a leadership retreat. Then came the bank statements showing the transfers of my inheritance money to Chloe. And finally, the audio played over the speakers. His voice, clear as day. I'm going to divorce that idiot as soon as I secure the promotion. I just need her to sign a few more of these warnings so I can prove she's unstable. She's clueless. The silence in the room was heavy, suffocating. Mr. Henderson looked like he had seen a ghost. Jason's face turned a color I'd never seen before, totally gray. I stood up. My chair scraped against the floor, echoing in the quiet hall. Actually, Jason, I said, my voice projecting clearly, I'm not the clueless one. But you're right about one thing. This is a contract, and you just breached it. I looked at Mr. Henderson. He forged my signature on a mortgage loan to fund this little vacation. The police are waiting outside with the fraud evidence. I just wanted you to see who you were promoting. Jason tried to stutter. It's a joke. She's crazy. She edited those. But it was over. Mr. Henderson walked up to the podium, took the microphone from Jason's hand, and said 2 words. You're fired. Jason looked at me, his eyes wide with panic. The arrogance was gone. Babe, please, he whispered, actually begging. We can fix this. Don't do this. I didn't even look at him. I walked out of the banquet hall. As I reached the doors, I saw 2 officers walking in. The fallout was fast and brutal. Jason was arrested for fraud and forgery. Because of the evidence I gathered, the divorce was granted almost immediately. The prenup he thought would save him was thrown out because of his coercion and abuse. I got the house. I got my savings back, plus half of his retirement fund. Chloe, the mistress, as soon as the money dried up and the handcuffs went on, she vanished. I sold that house. It had too many bad memories of inspections and scrubbing floors. I bought a smaller place, a cozy apartment with a balcony. My life now is quiet, but it's my quiet. I eat dinner when I'm hungry, not at 6 p.m. sharp. I leave the dishes in the sink overnight if I feel like it. I spent a long time in therapy unpacking the trauma of being controlled like that, realizing that love isn't a list of rules. But looking back, I realized that signing those contracts was the best thing I ever did, because without them, I wouldn't have had the paper trail to take him down. The moral of the story: never let anyone treat your life like a business transaction. And if they try to hand you a contract for your own existence, make sure you read the fine print and then use it to bury them. Revenge wasn't about hurting him. It was about finally choosing myself. So, here is my question for you guys. Do you think exposing him at his work dinner was too cruel, or did he deserve it for trying to steal my future? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories about taking back control, hit that subscribe button right now.